Excellent. And welcome to another episode of Starseed Activations. Welcome, Nancy. Thanks for coming. Many love and blessings to everybody watching. And so today we actually want to just start with a just very simple and easy manifestation for blessings and love and light. And we want to try and send rain to Canada. So what I want everybody to do is I want everyone just to sit back and take a nice deep breath in and release. And just ever so gently, I want you guys to open your heart chakras. Just feel the emotional expression of love. There's like a noise. You guys have to hold on one second. It's like somebody just turned on a compressor outside. It's crazy. Right as we're doing this. Okay. Let's start again. So what we're going to do is we are going to send many love and blessings, and we are going to do a rain manifestation for all of Canada. And so with all the fires and all the turbulence and the energetics right now, we just really want to be focused on holding space, allowing. And so whatever is going to manifest, we just come into that space of allowance. And we want to just feel the emotional expression of rain. And so the rain comes, it washes over us, it cleanses us, it purifies us, it allows us to be birthed. We are birthed in water. So that rain comes and it just allow it to fill your energetic grids. Just take a nice deep breath in and release. Just ever so gently, imagine and visualize what the rain feels like. Well, how does the earth smell when it first rains? There's always a sense right before it comes that we all can feel. And so just imagine and visualize that feeling, that emotion of, oh, it's going to rain, it's coming. Just visualize standing outside in the grass, just ever so gently twirling your arms in circles as the light rain droplets just ever so gently touch on your skin. Just feel them. They are cold and they wash over you. It makes you feel amazing, like you were a kid again. And so we just say thank you, Mother Earth, for allowing this rain to completely wash over all of Canada and any other areas of the planet that are currently engulfed in flames. Thank you, Mother Earth, for helping us to put out these fires and to rebalance these location codes back to a positive polarity. And so now the star people are stepping forward, and they are also assisting by generating a vortex energetic, which they are sending all the way to Canada to raise the frequency of the lands, allowing peace, love, and unity to wash into all of the people's hearts. And we are all here for them, and we all hold space for all of the earth, including the different locations affected by smoke. We ask that the rains go there as well and cleanse and purify. Okay, now just take a nice deep breath in and release. Excellent. See, now how does that feel? We just do it. We do it and we wish for the best. That's it. And then we release the resistance, and if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, it doesn't come. But either way, we try. Now, if you guys can start to get together in smaller groups, and you can actually dive into a hardcore meditation. The meditation is key because if you guys can sit down and meditate for a half hour to an hour and just see all the flames just being put out, just see them as it gets squashed one way or the other, and then when it gets put out, it will allow the rain to come and just do everything nice. Excellent. Okay, so some of the questions we had today, we're going to hop right in. Good morning, Karen, Mary Jean, Cheryl, Amanda, Karen again. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so incredibly much for coming. Okay, so the first question we're going to dive into: how do we tap into memories of ancestors to allow access into musical abilities, for an example? Now, musical abilities it is a type of artistic creation. And so each and every generation or cycle, they're calling it a yuga cycle. So we have things like the Bronze Age, the Gold Age, the Silver Age. These different ages, our ancestors have experienced moments in those ages. Now, all of that information, 7 generations forward, as well as 7 generations backwards, is actually encoded into our DNA systems. So by going into meditation, we can start to dive into the DNA and pull it apart. When we pull it apart, we choose what information we summon forward. That's very important. So your intention is key, because if you're just going to call up the ancestor and all of the information of the ancestor, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all going to come into your conscious mind. But let's say you're summoning something very particular as a musical ability. And so we would go into the DNA, and they're showing me like a library card index. And so you are telling it with the conscious mind, this is the information I need to know, or I want to know. And then it's going to flip, and then it's going to pull up. So you're basically going to have access to that information. Now, what does that look like? It's a frequency attunement. And so, but depending on the individual, the star people are saying that you guys will be able to instantaneously download this when you're properly attuned and you know. So you have to access the Akashic records first, they're saying, because that's going to give you a form of knowing. And I guess you see your whole life book. Now, that's only one life book. There's different chapters in the book, which is the past, the present, and the future lives that you as the individual are holding. That's in the book. But the ancestor information is encoded into this body in this lifetime. So even by consciously thinking about this information, it starts to put it all in the Akashic records for you to later on access. Now, there are guides readily available in the Akashic records. This, once again, you have to go inside to access it. And so you call upon your guides. Your guides will help you to perceive the information that you need. Many times, we can also start the process of instantaneous downloads. Now, what that looks like is you sitting there and you summoning the information. So let's say I want to learn to paint paintings. Now, I drop into my meditation. I imagine and visualize going into my DNA, where I may have had an artist in the DNA in the lineage. So first I ask the DNA, show me. Is there an artist in my lineage, in my DNA? Then you're going to get a flash or a vision of the artisan, the star people are saying. And then that's like the key is what they're calling it. They're calling it a key because he's got his own binary codex frequency. And that frequency is a key into his book of life because he's connected to you. So then you would want to go inside and you would want to instantaneously download the ability. So anytime he was ever painting, that whole ability can be washed over your whole biological form, and it will fine tune or change your magnetism so that you have access into that same potential of artistry, the star people are saying. Now, we do recommend starting with baby steps. So just knowing that this is a thing that unlocks the ability, it unlocks that potential. But then you have to put your conscious focus and attention on accessing it. So the universe is never going to over-endow the species. You have to focus and you have to will it. You have to manifest it. You have to believe it, but then you have to know it. And the second that you know it, it becomes real for you. And then what actually happens is because it's real for you, it shifts the human collective consciousness grid and it becomes real for all of us. Because if one of us can do it, that means the rest of us can learn it, and the rest of us can pick down to it, and the rest of us can believe it and know it. It's like he's saying you have to believe it, and then you know it. So the belief unlocks the knowing. That's just how he's telling me that this works. Yeah. There's other types of attunement he's showing me in which you could also coax the information down. And so once again, it changes your magnetism. And so you may sit down to play the piano and you may be 10% better than yesterday. He's saying that happens because of the shade system. So just imagine 1 second, we have types of trauma, and that trauma is encoded into the energetic grid structure, which then in turn won't allow full access into the ability. So in that case, you would start with something smaller. So 10% better is better than nothing. And then more conscious focus and attention. And then if you start to do the shadow work is removing any shadows or density distortions, whatever you guys want to call it, it's fine. And then all of a sudden, you start to change the magnetism in your grid, which starts to put you in alignment so that you master the ability. We are supposed to have masters on this realm. The masters are supposed to be people who have mastered the abilities. It is not supposed to be, a master and someone following his command. None of that nonsense. It's supposed to be you come in and you hone your craft, you master it, and then the people who master it, they're supposed to teach it and train it. So you were just having this conversation with your hubby? This is divine synchronicity. Hello, Victoria. Welcome, Jilly. Beautiful. Okay, so what's the rainbow body of light? Now, let me take a sip. My train's quiet. I don't know if you guys hear it. It's like, okay. So the rainbow body of light is actually your energetic grid structure. However, just imagine the monks are doing this right now on the planet. And so what they do is they go in, they do all their shadow work. So they have to release any densities, any distortions, any traumas, all of that has to be healed. The original trauma from birth, the moment of birth when the child comes is very painful. That's also imprinted. That has to be healed. Now, many times, like very high Buddhist monks and people who come into this world and their energy grids seem very high frequency, they may hold one attachment. That one attachment could be anything as simple as something that they're eating, and it grounds them into the physical world because a part of them is like they can't live without it. That's an attachment. That's a type of attachment. There's multiple types. We'll get into that later. But an attachment to anything in the physical world, this can even be a person, place, or thing. Doesn't necessarily have to be food. So, and they'll say, we've all heard this too. What he's saying is when you hold on to something too tight, then it causes problems for you. So when we hold on to a person too tight, there's a higher potential of us losing that person. When you hold on to something, well, he's saying that's good enough. Now, when we start to dive into that, we start to clear up the energetics, which then in turn allows more light to shine brightly. So I want you just to imagine for 1 second, we have the higher self is coming down a tube or a channel in the body, which is, it's light. Well, it's magnetism and light's coming down, and then it's reflecting out. Now, it reflects out circular, and then it comes back in and it makes a sacred geometry. This light is encoded in the physical world. The physical world is density. It's very slow. This pen, the atoms and the molecules are moving so slow, it looks solid to us. So density makes things look solid. Right? Now, keep this concept in mind. When you start to activate your rainbow body of light, you become more light. It's more of a higher frequency, which then in turn, your soul or the higher self it's exceptionally high frequency. It's pure love, joy, and bliss. So the higher self is always walking around having the most amount of fun that it could possibly have. It's an it. It is not a boy or a girl. It's a spirit. It's an energy. Now, the higher self can fractalize into multiple bodies, but the second that one of those bodies starts to activate, it forms an energetic bond with the higher self to the degree in which a bright white light will fire up. And so it's like, and you activate the rainbow body of light. That rainbow body of light basically puts you in a very high frequency of 5D, but it's even higher than that. It's more like the angelic realms. Each and every one of us have a rainbow body of light inside of us. This is your aura field. Just imagine for 1 second your aura, your energy, and then somebody putting a skin suit over it. That's how this works. The skin suit is 3D. The skin suit is the physical world because we're at a low frequency. When we start to raise our frequency into a higher frequency, we don't need the skin suit. We become pure beings of light. But it's still going to feel as if we have a body. We're not going to feel like we died or any of that. We're going to feel like we are pure light. And that's going to look like instantaneous manifestation, communicating with animals, using telepathy. It's going to look like everyone's healthy. You can start to change or shapeshift your body. So this comes because the atoms and molecules are under a state of frequency. It vibrates, it moves, it's fluid. Nothing is solid. So if you believe this pen is red, this pen will be red. Just because you see it does not mean that you should believe it. When you know it, then all of a sudden that pen can turn blue, right? And we would call that magic, but it's instantaneous manifestation. Now, how does this work? It works because you are changing the subatomic grids of the pen, which then in turn can make changes or modifications to any physical item in the physical reality, including a location. So let's say, for an example, you know and you believe, or you know that there's a fast food building on such and such block. And all of a sudden, you may need that building to be right next to you. You can technically move the building. It is not the building that moves. It is actually the frequency inside of you that moves, making the perception as if the building was always in the location that you needed it in all along. Nobody else is going to see this when you do it on your own, unless you're with two people in the car driving around and then both of you guys notice. So you shifted together. This is a real thing. I've seen it done. Now, when we start to realize that we can shift things, I think there's different quotes that talk about us moving mountains. This is real. However, it's the mountain doesn't move. We shift and we instantaneously manifest. So we are seeing the mountain where we need it to see. That's how it works in the beginning. Now, of course, we do have different extrasensory abilities, which are going to let us do things like bend the spoon. That's okay too. And in time, people are going to be able to breathe life into the rocks. That's a thing too. And so once upon a time, we had rock people on the planet. This is a very magical place to live. A golden race or a golden age is us stepping into the instantaneous manifestation abilities. That includes doing things like breathing life into inanimate objects, they are saying. The story of Pinocchio. A blue fairy came and gave him, he was a real boy. This is real because life is life. It doesn't matter if it's an inanimate thing. You could breathe a soul or a light form into it because everything is made of light ions. Everything is connected to the source frequency, and we're living in a holographic simulation. So the second that we know that is the second that it activates on the planet. Now, right now, many of us know fragments of that truth. You don't know the whole truth because it's not here yet, and that's okay too. However, that belief and that knowing, it's coaxing it, so it's manifesting it for all of the people of planet Earth. However, the star people are also saying, keep in mind, some people are not ready for that Earth, and that's okay too. Now, the entire human collective consciousness will shift or make adjustments. So this is what the whole Starseed program is currently about. The whole planet was flooded with 47% starseeds. This is specifically because the extraterrestrials knew the starseeds could come here, hold a higher frequency, and then we could manifest the future that we wanted to see manifest and save the entire planet. They really wanted to save the planet itself, because Earth is very biodivision, he's saying. So there's a lot of biodiversity, is what he's saying. There's many different species of extraterrestrials, which are genetically modifying tinier insects, animals, and plant life. And then they are seeding it here on Earth as a giant experiment, which is wonderful. Because you take a look at all the animals and plant life, all of this is going to be evolved in such a fantastic, wonderful moment. Now, no animals are technically extinct. What they are is they are just capped or maintained at a particular frequency bandwidth, he's saying. Because take for an example, any animal that goes extinct, we're seeing it as extinct. But what actually happened is we raised our frequency. That animal was no longer a frequency match. So that animal kind of got left behind in time. But the star people have technology where they can flip through into parallel realities, and they can take the DNA of that animal and they can do things like genetically modify the animal and place it back here. This is how this system is being done with different extraterrestrial races. This is only for information. The star people are not telling me that they're doing this right now, but they have in their past timelines, because this was part of their learning ability and processes of growth. So that's wonderful too. Excellent. Okay, so Oregon earth pipes and different uses. Let me take a sip. Okay, so Oregon is like this. I'll just show you guys. And it's layered material, inorganic and organic material, layered together with a copper spiral and then different crystals. Now, what this does is it basically is a giant vortex projector. So it's bringing a type of energy that gives us life. Now, when we start to utilize Oregon pipes, specifically ones made of copper, we are able to utilize its ether pulling, is what the star people are saying. So it's pulling this life force energy in, and it starts to transmutate it down into the earth. And then anything that you plant by these pipes are going to be a higher frequency. Now, if you take 4 of them, and the star people are showing me putting 1 in each corner of the plot of land that you own, it's going to form a type of protection. These should also be placed around cell phone towers. Any negative environment, let's say a hospital, we can start to plant these around the hospital as well, because all the negativity, because you're dealing with people who are traumatized in the hospital, all of that radiates out. So if you have the pipes surrounding that entire hospital, it's going to kind of contain and diffuse all of that energy. And they work very, very well. Now, organite, we'd call them hockey pucks. These are things people are making in the cupcake tins. They're taking them, and they do not have to look beautiful. They just have to get the job done. Take it and throw it next to the cell phone towers. There's also been people who have taken organite circular balls, and they've dropped them around the coast of Africa. And they've taken notice that all the dolphins love it. And so the dolphins will actually go down, scoop it up, and they'll play with it. They like the organite because it's a positive frequency that's radiating off of it. Yeah, how tall are they? So the one I have is about this big. It's a good sized pipe. It's a good sized pipe. It looks like a size 10 in men's shoes, maybe. Okay, yes. So organite can be in the shape of a pyramid. The pyramid ones are wonderful. I actually have one under my bed. It's tiny, but it's a pyramid. So that pyramidal shape actually starts the vortex energetic, but it projects it out the direct top. So instead of having a giant vortex, it's projected. Now, it works both ways, because if you can take the organite and let's say put it on your heart, it's actually going to start to rebalance that heart as well. You do have to be aware. I had this one on for years. And so I did notice hardcore that it does have an impact on the emotions. So you will not be as emotional and you won't get as upset. But the second that you take it off, there's a potential for getting very, very emotional. So just be aware. Think about it scientifically too. This thing is generating a vortex. Your heart chakra is a vortex energetic. This is generating a love-based emotion or vortex. So by wearing it all the time, your body is getting attuned to always having that higher frequency. So what's going to happen when you take it off? It's like you feel a tiny bit crummy. So we want to always, in even the regular crystals, the star people are saying, even regular crystals, you want to have them, wear them, and then every now and again, take everything off. because, and I even had a seashell necklace that's up on the wall. You can't really see it, but it was the conch shells. And I've had it for a very, very long time. But the star people were like, you have to take it off because each one of the shells is encoded with a frequency. They absorb all of your memories. Everything does. It absorbs things. That's actually a superpower too. Some people on the planet, they can touch any item and then they can see as like a flash at first, but they'll start to see the memory of the entire item in its entirety. Now, what does that look like? The pen being created. So the birthing process of the pen, they're going to see all of that. Every single memory that this pen has ever had, from sitting on the store shelf to being in the hand, to writing with it, to what words were written with it, what words were spoken around it. That's the memory grade complex of just this one item. Some items can be light encoded, some can be dark encoded. That's okay too, because we do not judge the darkness. We hold space and we come to neutrality. Neutrality is key because when we are neutral in all things, it's everything. We have to see the darkness. It's okay to have the darkness. Here, I hold neutral. That does not mean that you ignore the call to service, the star people are saying. Because if something negative is happening in front of you and you can stop it, that's a call to service. It's in front of you. What I'm telling you is big things in the world, if you could just hold space, it'll allow the big things to shift out of your current reality faster because you're not radiating a lower frequency emotion over that experiential. This is very, very important because when we start to see the negative things happening in the civilization, this is all part of the evolutionary process. The old has to boil up all the negativity, it has to be released, and then it has to be renewed, has to be re-cleansed, the star people are saying. That's okay too. We just hold space. If there's something that we can do or we feel called to do, we do it. If there's not, it's okay too. We drop into meditation, we send it love and light, we try and heal it in the astral realms. That's okay too. We do not have to pick up the pitchforks and start a fight. At one point of your evolutionary process, you may feel like you have to do that. And if you do feel that, you have to follow your own heart and your own intuition. What I'm telling you is we're more powerful than the simulation. So just dropping into meditation is well known in the scientific communities to reduce crime, to reduce anxiety. It starts the process of synchronizing everybody's hearts so that all of a sudden everybody's hearts are more calm or more at peace. This is just because you have one person meditating. The higher the frequency of the person, that frequency can be expanded into indefinite levels, the star people are saying. Normally, it's like it can be a 5 mile up to a 22-mile radius. But when you start to tune into extremely high frequencies, you can start to engulf the entire planet with a higher frequency. Some people, and you guys know exactly who you are, who are watching this, you can do this. And yes, doing too much too soon can potentially harm. It can harm you, not the planet. But so some people just don't do it. They know who they are, who's watching this. That's what the star people are saying. Now, when you start to utilize it in a group, much safer. Some people on the planet, they actually already have the extrasensory abilities very unlocked, but they will not tell you because for so many years, it's been very hush hush. And so some of those people, we can feel them, we can sense them. Some of those people too, if they do not want to be seen on a camera, like say the cameras in the whatever store you're in, you won't see them. And so that is a process that each and every one of us gets to where we can stop things from happening in the physical world. Now, and that has a lot to do with invincibility. So when we start to manifest, and the wording has to be correct because it's not invisibility, because then you are inside of the visibility. You want to be out of the visibility so no one can see you. So the wording has got to be correct when we start doing manifestations. You have to really sit down. This is the reason why people sit down and they write it, because they want to make sure, does that word sound correct? When you get to a certain degree and you start the instantaneous manifestation process and you have a word that doesn't mean exactly what it does, it throws the entire thing off. Now, the manifestations are real. They are encoded with 3 rings. The star people saying the 3 rings make up the sacred geometry of the flower of life. So by utilizing 3 different rings, he's saying right now it's a binary codex frequency along with the location coding, along with the experiential frequency wave. Those are 3 rings. And when we start to cast energetically, we can start to summon or manifest experientials. Those experientials can be anything that we wish to see manifest into our physical reality. Of course, the amount of time it's going to take us to manifest something fully depends on the individual, as well as the amount of density or shadow work held in the energetic grid structures of that individual. So yes, we just totally take baby steps, and you have to think about the 3 aspects of it. So your binary codex frequency, they want me to further explain it. The binary codex frequency explains what it is. It's a blue pen. It clicks this way, it clicks that way. This is how it works. Explain all of it. If it's a business idea, write it all down, explain everything. You want to be very, very particular with your words. What location is it in? Is it high frequency? Is it on a beach? Is it near a boardwalk? Where is it? Write it all down. Now, experiential. How much experience does this location have? Is it a brand new restaurant, or is it an older restaurant? Does it already have the experience that it needs to be a one-hit wonder? So when we start to go in, we start to program our manifestations by those 3 things. And then he's also saying, encode it with a love-based frequency of 432 hertz. Now, when we start to do all 3 of those, and then bam, I love it, it will manifest for us. Now, once again, too much focus is not a good thing, because you don't want to hold on so tight that it doesn't come to you. You have to release the resistance. Send it love and light. Imagine it, visualize it, make it a mantra, put it on your wall, do it every single morning that you wake up. First thing in the morning, the first 15 minutes is key, because your brain waves are still in synchronization with the higher self. So start to do things like that and really see it, visualize it, smell it, write it all down, utilizing the correct wording, because when you're utilizing positive frequency words, it allows the manifestation to come in a positive light. So be very aware. That's what he's saying. Let me take a sip. Excellent. Okay. Oh, you guys can listen to me 24/7. You should see what happens when I have someone around 24/7. I just don't shut up. It's so much fun. My friend just came from New York, and she was here, and it was like, da-da-da, and she was like, the guy was like, go write down, right? So much fun. Okay, let's see. Of course, the power of love and casting is the next question. So love and casting, when we open up our hearts, what automatically happens is the higher self is embodying the heart chakra. Now, there is different techniques to coax that higher self down and allow him or her, it's a frequency, but allow him or her to flower open in the heart chakra. What this feels like, the star people show me, it looks like this, like a flower opening, but it feels like your fingers opening like that way, and just opening. That's what the higher self feels like when it takes its place in the heart energetic chakra. Now, when we start to allow the higher self and we coax the higher self down and that flower opens, now we want to try and open the pineal gland. Then the next step is to open the crown chakra. When all 3 of these are flowered open, we do become activated. The star people are saying this is very important, but it's a baby step process. It's easy to start the activation process, but actually holding it can be quite tricky, especially with the solar energetics. Now, when all 3 of these things are in alignment, just imagine for 1 second, the star people are right now saying, if you're trying to do a manifestation with the 3 rings and you have all 3 of these centers open, it's going to come into your physical world potentially instantaneously, depending on the shadow work that you've done. However, for some people, more shadow work is needed. That's okay too. You have to really visualize and see it, believe it. We do have this great potential of closing our eyes and then seeing and visualizing, hearing, sensing, tasting, touching, and then instantaneously shifting into that parallel reality, which then in turn allows us access into that manifestation. So when that happens, it's basically like heaven at that point, because wherever you want to be, you believe, you know that you could just dive into yourself and bam, shift. And this is true. Some people are doing this on the planet right now. They are instantaneous teleportation people. They're travelers, and so they have an attunement to teleport very quick, instantly. So it's beautiful, beautiful gift. Now, when you start to do that, it goes above time and space, as star people are saying. So you do not necessarily have to be in this now moment, because time and space is technically an illusion. So you can travel to the past or to the present, the future. You see that? To the future. Now, when you can do this, the past becomes your future. So it technically isn't the past because it's your future. So you can't just hop into the past and make changes and then expect to come back to the future and the changes are there. It's not the way it works. The past is the future because time space doesn't exist. It is all fluid in its nature. So everything is ever changing. Now, of course, that's a very high frequency ability. We're trying to baby step the process. So a lot of times I like to talk about the things that we could do right now. And by going into the memory grid complex, this is like the baby step to unlock the gift. So your memories encode you to this now moment. So if you believe that in your life, you got married, got a job, had a kid, then when you open your eyes right now in this second, you believe, you know it, that you got married, had a kid, here's your house, here's your job, all that stuff. And that's great too. Now, when you start to shift the memory grids, it's very important to baby step the process and try and maintain your own reality while you're doing this. But we have the potential to shift the memory, which when we open our eyes from the meditation, it actually shifts the entire reality that we exist in. Your husband could be different. The house could be a different color. The car could be completely different. You could change your bank account. There's so many different changes. It's kind of like accessing the subconscious mind, which makes changes to your frequency or your binary codex, which then in turn shifts you into a parallel reality in which these manifestations are already here. That's how it works. It's beautiful. So, okay, let's see. Oh, so next we're going to talk about Lemurian crystals and how they spark and casting with them. So, yeah, this one's for you, Jill. I'm doing it again. So, Lemurian crystal, my friend Jill, she's up there in the comments. She told me the crystal actually makes a little spark. Oh, that's weird. The crystal makes a spark when you rub them together. And so you can see a form of electricity. Now, piezoelectric crystals are when you take like a regular piece of quartz and then you would stick it under pressure, and then that pressure generates a spark. They're calling it like a spark of life. And then all of a sudden that quartz crystal, it starts to radiate or pulse that electricity. We used to use them in our wrist watches. Now you would wind it up because winding it up generated that spark. And then the wristwatch would go and go and go until the spark eventually died out. Now realize they were using a very, very tiny piece of crystal. So what happens when we generate a spark into the crystal is now the crystal can cast energetically because that spark is electrical in its nature. It's directly connected into the chi energetics, which is also your masculine energetics, and it's on the right-hand side of your body. Now, that energetic, when you start to do things like programming the crystal, that crystal, because it is your brain waves are electricity. And so that casting, when you cast energetically, you have to have the thought. The thought is, let me send love, which is a heart-based emotion. Your emotions are always connected to the heart, always in the emotion grids, always connected to the higher self. Your thoughts are in the thought grid, which is in your mind, and they're electrical in their nature. So when we start to utilize a crystal that can project by piezoelectricity, which the Lemurian crystals are naturally electric because they make that spark of life, then we start to realize that whatever we program the crystal to do, it's like an automatic, it's going to keep doing it forever because of that electric spark that's encoded naturally into them. Every single crystal also has a memory grid complex for the entire crystal as a individual crystal kingdom. So quartz has its own memory grid complex. Rose quartz has its own complex. Apatite has its own complex. All of them. Each one has its own grid. Now, the second that we know this, whenever you are holding a particular crystal, it doesn't matter which type of crystal. It could be any crystal that you guys see fit. When you're holding it, its brothers and sisters are picking onto all the knowledge that you are encoding into this crystal. The crystal is going to store all the memories, but also all the time it was in the earth stored. That's its memory, not yours. It's the crystal's memory. So you can actually turn around, you can ask the crystal, where did you come from? The crystal will then psionically, using telepathy, psionic abilities, it will tell you where it came from. So they can make two-way communications because they are living entities or beings. They are conscious, they are very sentient. So anytime, and just imagine you had a friend with you that was a human. That human is going to see, it's going to hear, it's going to remember, it's going to know everything that you're doing. All of that gets encoded into your best friend who's with you, right? So the crystals work the same way. This is your best friend. All of the information that the crystal is seeing, it's in the vicinity of, is going to be encoded onto the crystal. But then, just like a human would, all of my memories gets encoded to the human consciousness grids. If you had a human best friend with you, that human best friend information goes up to the memory grids, the human consciousness grids. The crystal's the same exact way. Now, when we start to talk about ancient crystals, this is the reason why the crystal skulls are so high value. Those crystals, someone sat down with them and they consciously projected knowledge for the future into the crystal. So we can do that right now. You guys can hold the crystal. If you want to put it up to your head, you can. You don't necessarily have to. You don't even have to hold it. You could just put it on your table. It's very, very simple. It's listening. It's kind of like Amazon Alexa is always recording us. The crystal's the same way, right? So it records everything. So one day, just imagine, just visualize. The Star People is saying that one day you have the technology to put the crystal into a computer, and the crystal is going to tell you its complete memory. That's a potential of crystals. That's another reason why I keep this one particular crystal. Every single live stream, I have it. And when I start doing the in-person sessions and healings and all sorts of things, I'm going to carry it. So all of my knowledge gets encoded into it. And then when I'm done, I'm going to pass it to a person. So that in time, when that technology comes out, all of the knowledge is encoded into the crystal. And so I really would love to see you guys too. Just get one crystal. You don't have to wear it. You just have to sit with it, talk to it, right? And then just, if you carry it around, it's going to learn everything about you. Your entire life story is going to be on that crystal. So then you pass it to your kids and your kids' kids and your grandkids, and it goes down a line, and then eventually they'll be able to, oh, let's see my ancestor, right? Bam. What information would, let's see every day. Just pick a random day. Yeah, having it in the car, and talk to it because it is conscious and sentient. Now, my first experience with a piece of quartz was amazing. The Star People were telling me and triggering me. They kept saying, and it was my voice in my mind, so I just thought I was crazy. This was a very long time ago. They kept telling me, go get the crystal in the car, because I had it hanging from the rearview mirror. And I kept, no, I'm not going to do that. It's a crazy thought. And it went on it was like a week of having this voice in my head tell me, go get the crystal in the car. You're not using it correctly. And finally I went to the car. I took the crystal, I cut it off. I really didn't want to. By the time I had walked back to the front step, I completely felt this discharge of energy wash over me. It felt like something had lifted off. Now I realize that that's a Kundalini energetics. So anytime you're around a person, selenite is a wonderful crystal. Like, let's say you have your friends and family that don't know any of this stuff. You hand them a piece of selenite and just tell them to hold it just for under a minute. It doesn't even take that long. And then all of a sudden, if they're sick or they're depressed, they're going to feel something lift off. That's a massive healing, because what's actually happening is the chakras are snapping back into alignment, and it's discharging all the negative and toxic energetics off of them. So anytime the crystal is putting a positive energy, which it washes off a lot of the density, the darkness. So it works by putting positive frequencies in, which it pushes the darkness off. Yes, that's perfect. So you have crystals in your car for safety. That's wonderful. So rose quartz in my pocket every day. Nancy, try and switch it out. Try and always switch it out. And this was my thing. I started getting the bigger palm stones. And so this one is one of my favorites too. It's Numite. It's the Magician's Stone. So when you have a palm stone, they're pretty heavy, pretty big, and you can't, you don't want to carry it every day. I always try and rotate when I do, but a lot of times if I'm going into public, I grab the Numite. It's a Magician's Stone, so it's totally like a grounding stone. It protects, but you guys also have to realize, me personally, a lot of times my head is deep into the metaphysical knowledge. And so the star people also guide me to utilize black crystals because it allows me to take all that knowledge that we talk all day long and ground it into the physical world. This is why we can have the conversation about the extrasensory abilities and how we can timeline hop and do all sorts of things and pick up water and levitate things. And we can dive into that. But is it practical and useful right now? Can I do it right now? No. But there are things I can do. Like lightning. I've made lightning multiple times. So that I can do. I know I can. So we've seen it. Like the lightning bolt hit my car twice when we were in the middle of a heated argument. And so it's wild and amazing. Where to get Numite palm stones? So, I mean, Amazon has them. They have a little reflection, so there is a sparkle to it. I don't really know though. I mean, I know there are people who are generating like knockoff crystals. So you have to be really careful where you're ordering your stuff from and just know where, know your wholesale distributor if you're going to order them. Just be careful. Or actually the star people is saying, or you could just do a manifestation that the crystals that you need find you. And so I personally have had the experience in which we went and look at this. We find little rocks. And then of course it's like the type of rock is the type of rock that you may need to rebalance your grids. Now, this is of high interest because this was something me and Jill were talking about today. But I'm going to show these so you guys can see. This is like a toroidal field. And so what these do is it completely activates the 12-strand DNA. And this is for educational purposes only. So a toroidal field is what your energetic grid looks like. If you guys want a moment to take a screenshot, because you need to utilize both images at the same time. So at least it'll be on the video long enough. And then you have both photos. Now, your energetic grids, it looks like a donut. It's like a toroidal field. The yin yang symbol, it pulls apart and in a 3D, it looks like a donut with the white eye and the black eye on both sides. It's the top and the bottom of your magnetism. So the black one is underneath your feet and the white one is on top of your head. And your energetic grids, you can hold light, you can hold darkness. It really depends on you. When we activate the rainbow body of light, we shift it into more of a primary light instead of darkness. However, right now, remember how I'm telling all you guys, we have density and distortion. It's dark. So that yin yang is showing us the 3D reality. That 3D reality allows each person to be encoded with light or darkness. This is very important because each and every one of us, and this is why we shouldn't judge, each and every person on this world has the potential to either hold light or darkness. It just depends on the traumas that you have walked through. That's the bottom line. They could take a regular person who is all love and light, and they can put that person like compression, like they put them under so much negativity and so much trauma, a switch will flip in their minds and they will turn to the dark side. This is real. This is how trauma works. This is how this world works. So when we do this, then all of a sudden it's like we don't judge people because any of us could be light or dark. So we hold neutral, we hold neutral polarity, and we just allow and we have peace in our hearts and we shine bright. When we do that, it actually allows us to activate more light in our energetic grids, which then in turn allows us access into the higher frequency realm. That's where we're shooting for. We want to be in 4D. 4D is instantaneous manifestation. However, there's a lot of chaos in the civilization in 4D. When we reach 5D, sacred geometry shows, and then we start to tap into a level 1 civilization. Sure. Okay, take your time, Facebook user. Let me see. I'll put it one more time so maybe you guys can get a screenshot. Okay, take your time. Hopefully you can get it. I didn't buy these cards. Someone actually had given them. Yeah, but that program is okay. I do have more of the cards. I have to find them. And like these say on the back, to fully activate the 12-strand DNA, use with companion grid 3A. So whoever made them, right? It's like these two cards have to go together, and it's a toroidal field. So if you actually had a look at the image, there's a number on top of the toroidal field. So in time, we're going to be able to sense your energetic grid structure, and all of the numbers, each number holds a frequency code. So we know this by looking at Grabovoi codes. And the Grabovoi codes is it's a code, like say 53778, just for an example. Now, when you Google what's the frequency of that, it tunes into an emotion code. So when we start to look at the grids, this is the energetic grid structure. This here is what it looks like. This here is what I've been asking people to make for me, and I had it all along. This like it just, I just realized that right now. So funny. So when we start to realize, okay, well, these numbers have a frequency, that frequency is holding on to an emotion code, and these are the emotional codes that we need to program into our energetic grids in order to allow us to activate the 12-strand DNA system. I actually don't know the name of the grid of it. So actually, Jill might. I don't know if all that books I gave you, Jill, has a name on it, but maybe. Okay, we'll move on to the next. Tonight is the shadow work Zoom. So anybody who wants to come, we started at 8:30. And so just send me a message at daniellipton.com and I will send you guys a complimentary Zoom link. We've been doing the shadow work Zooms for, it's got to be over a month by now. And so everyone who shows up, we dive in, we release identity, we start to do healings. There's all sorts of wonderful things that come. It's just such a pleasure and a blessing to see all the same people showing up week after week. It's like, I know. And they're like, they look happy and bright every time. It's amazing. Is there a book of these codes? I'm not sure. I do know that I have a couple more of these. And so she sold them. The lady who made the books that you have, she made these images and she sold them as like a package or a class set. So it was all part of one thing. So, and you've seen the book. I couldn't focus on it. All right, let's tune into one more. And Jill, just throw any other information in the comments. This way anyone who watches this after can try and research it too. So, okay, let's see. Let's take a sip. It's so funny because we've gone over half the questions and I didn't even look at them. Okay. This is an important one. So the energetic grids, outward is service to others. That's what most of us are, by the way. Everyone watching this, we're mostly service to others. We're love and light. We want to serve the collective. We want to do good, right? And then, but inward is more service to the self. So when we start to realize this, it kind of makes sense because when you're service to others, what are you doing? You're actually working in the outward grids. However, the process of raising into 5D frequencies, you have to master both. So you have to master, do you have a home? Do you have food in your stomach? Are your needs met? That's the service to self. You have to master loving yourself before you can fully step in and activate your energetic grids. This is very, very important. This is what the shadow work is too. It's loving yourself enough to discharge all the negative things or traumas that you have walked through. So what we do is we take the time, we heal the inward layers. There's 3 degrees in the inside. There's 3 layers or degrees of the energetics to the outside. So you put them both together and it's a level 33 because you've mastered the inside, which is, there's a lot of darkness inside your body. So we know it as service to the self, which can lead into darkness. Whatever darkness that you have, your traumas, we have to go inside to heal them. So we are mastering the darkness. We're mastering our own manifestations of darkness. So we take it from that perspective because I don't want to tell you guys that we have to master the darkness because I do not wish for any of you guys to tap into any dark arts. That stuff, there's consequences, when you start playing with fire. And so I try and just stick to love and light, right? And I always think, oh, the more love, I shouldn't say I think, I know for a fact, the more love and light you can shine to other people, it puts you in a divine alignment, which allows you to experience more love and light in your life. That's it. That's my protection, is shining love and light to everything, including the negativity and the darkness. A lot of times, actually, when we see people who are so angry, right? They're angry because they're hurt. And so sometimes it only takes one really nice person to go up to them and warm their heart. And then they start the healing process. It may not be overnight, of course, but healing is never a one and done. It's always a journey. You have to baby step the process. Now, anyone who's in a physical body, that means that you have a trauma that you haven't healed. That's the bottom line. If you were fully activated in your rainbow body of light, you would already be up in 5D. So if you're in a physical body, you have a trauma. A lot of times people hold one trauma so that they can maintain a body in the physical world so that they can do this type of work that I'm doing right now. That's okay too. That's not me. I have a couple things. So, but I'm just saying there are people who do that. There's very high caliber light workers on the planet. There's everyday people. And so we don't judge. You never know who's who. You should watch what you say to every person, because you never know if they could potentially have an extraterrestrial passenger watching. The extraterrestrials, they're watching every single person on the planet. It's kind of like if you guys took Starseed, so the Starseeds is their family. If you guys took one of your family members and you allowed them to reincarnate onto another foreign planet to try and help them, wouldn't you guys watch them? Like, I see it like, you're in like, I would say a bar, but I don't drink. So maybe like a kava bar with a TV on the screen, and you're watching all the Starseeds do their, all the hippie stuff, walking in nature, hugging the trees, making organite, doing all sorts of crystal, like talking about. I would be watching them all day, every day, because I would want to see, are they going to do it? I would be scanning into the future to see, did they do it? The star people do that. And they said that we made it already. We already evolved the planet in the potentials. It's already there. How can we know that we are in divine alignment with our lives or the things in our life? How does it make you feel? When we're not in alignment, we start to fall. And it's not a fall as if you tripped on something. It's a fall as if all the stuff around you starts breaking down. Now, or it doesn't work correctly, or like your phone will glitch or something, right? Something is not going to go right. You're going to have struggles and strife. When you are in alignment, it feels exciting. So you wake up in the morning, you put your feet on the floor, you feel like you run 100 miles an hour, but then all of a sudden it's like, wham, it's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. You're like, where did the day go? That's how you know you're in alignment. So time and space works this way as well, because when we start to hold higher frequencies, we start to go above time and space. And so when you're really happy, time seems to fly. When you're very sad and depressed, time seems to go very slow. Learning both of time and space, the fast and the slow, is key. You have to know the darkness in order to heal it. That's okay too. It does sound like a perfect world, but actually that's where we live. It's just a matter of us frequency matching and tuning into that reality, which is already here. It's already here. Like 5D is already here. I've seen it. I know it. I felt it. It feels like you got hugged by an angel, right? It's like pure bliss, love, and joy washes over your entire body. It's the most amazing feeling in the entire world. The star people showed me it because they were like, now, as much as you can hold that emotion and hold that frequency, it'll radiate out and you'll be able to shine it for everyone else who's around you. Right? So just you guys can do it too. So come inside and try and hold that love-based emotional frequency. Name of the cards is C. Vincent, 1995. Oh, so good. So these cards, C. Vincent, 1995. Yeah, that's there. Maybe the book might have more information. We could try and post a picture if we find something on Facebook. So, okay, the shadow work is at 8:30. So we got 30 minutes for that. Anybody who's interested in having a private one-on-one session with me, you guys can order a session at daniellelipton.com. I do different types of sessions. So I do healing sessions. I do regular ascension sessions. So any knowledge that you guys need in order to evolve you into the next brick of consciousness, that usually comes forward. And I also do attachment clearing sessions. Now, the attachments are emotion codes. Any emotion that you experience on repeat may potentially have an energetic being that we call attachments latched onto the grids. And so what we do is we go through this all and we cast them off. A lot of times you guys can feel when they are cast off. I can feel your densities and your distortions. So any imbalances in the energetic grids, I get triggers all over my body to feel and sense these things. So it's very interesting when we start doing the attachment clearings. So many things have happened and it's like, okay, it's very real. So yes, thank you guys so incredibly much for coming. It's absolutely wonderful. You guys have a wonderful evening and many, many love and blessings. And we also just want to thank the star people. And we just want to once again, ever so gently, thank Mother Earth for helping us to put out these fires and for healing and sending so much love and light to all the areas affected by the wildfires. And so, and the smoke, the star people are saying. So we just send many love and blessings to Mother Earth. And thank you for all of the star people for watching over us and protecting us and helping us to save this planet. And so with that being said, you guys have a wonderful night. Many love and blessings. Okay. Thank you guys.